Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2022 film Slash Back. And yes, there's actually a backslash in there, so it's kind of a play on backslash. And there's another meaning behind this title that's revealed at the very end before they get to the end credits. So keep your eye open for that. This one is a Shudder exclusive. It's coming Friday, November 18th. So since it's a new film and it hasn't hit Shudder when I'm putting this up, this is a no spoiler review. Although I will say the very last thing I'm going to say about this will be metaphorical. I'm going to say something about a metaphor that I see at play here. So I'll kind of warn you about that before I get to it so you can kind of drop out if you want to, but all no spoilers. I'm certainly not going to tell you any actual events and give you a very short synopsis. Directed by Nyla Innuksuk, who also did Future History. Written by Innuksuk and Ryan Cavan, who also wrote Sinister Switch. I have not seen either of those. This is a Canadian film shot on Baffin Island, and it's in a Inuit hamlet, is what they call them. They call them hamlets. It's called Pangnertung, which they just call Pang in the film for short, and apparently it's referred to as the Arctic Switzerland. So if you can visualize based off that, it's gorgeous. And the scenery is used quite well within this film. I mean, if anything you can take away from this film, it's beautiful in that sense. And actually, the directing, the cinematography is good as well. And I think when you pair those things together, like amazing scenery and good cinematography and directing, like visually, it's a very pleasing film. So I do like that. Again, Shudder exclusive coming Friday, November 18th. Quick synopsis on this one. It's about the Inuit hamlet of Pang, as they call it, for slang, and specifically this group of young kids, primarily girls, but there's a boy who gets involved with it as well. And kind of starting just with their lives, this kind of everyday life stuff, establishing who they are as people, their relationships with each other, and then they have something that they need to band together and battle, basically, because it is a danger. Because as you would assume, this is a horror film. So yeah, I don't want to say specifically what that is because I want people to go in as blind as possible with that type of stuff. So yeah, but let's get into it. A very effective beginning that definitely makes you want more and also makes you curious about what the thing at play here is, and you actually don't need to wait that long to find out, to be honest. They get to it pretty quickly. So the pacing in the beginning of the film, I think, is really good. The pacing, once it hits later, I don't think quite like the halfway point. I think maybe like the 3/4 point, it does start to get some slowing down going. But other than that, the pacing is pretty solid. There are some subtitles, just know this. So I believe, forgive me if I'm incorrect, but Inuit language. I was looking up what the actual language is there in Pangnertung, but I couldn't find anything specifically, so I probably just wasn't looking hard enough. So my apologies on that one. Texting is actually used in this in the beginning, and it's shown on screen, which is, in my opinion, the only way to do text stuff. I've seen people who incorporate texting into film by just looking over the person's shoulder basically and showing their screen. That does not work nearly as well as showing the person doing it and then to the side having these little bubble pop-ups. So it's much easier for the audience to read. So good job on that one. The characters are very effectively established and they feel real, as do their relationships. That's one of the biggest strengths with this is you can feel the personalities of these kids. You can feel the relationships that they have with each other. And they seem real. They tend to kind of jab at each other throughout the film, kind of insult each other, make jokes about each other, that sort of thing that helps kind of make their relationships seem even more normal, and it also presents kind of a group dynamic as well as individual dynamics. So that's one of the biggest strengths, I think, with the script writing of this. The characters are well written, and the dialogue is good for the most part. I do think that story-wise, there could have been some more fleshed out, and they could have gone much bigger. But at the same time, this is a low-budget film, as you can probably tell when you watch it, and I don't know how much money they ended up having, so they may have been kind of like had their hands tied with the script as far as needing to keep things on a relatively small scale. But unfortunately for me, that's one of the things that kind of kept me from enjoying this as much as I feel like I could have. Because the story, where they make it start going, you see, you know, some great implications coming. And I just feel like it just never goes there. It's like it kind of gets to a certain point and it just gets stuck. And then they end it. They use some really cool camera angles and movements, which helps keeping you visually engaged with the film. So like I said, you know, good directing, good cinematography. Love the score. The music in this is great. This is another one of its big strengths. Love, love, love the music used in this. At times, it's appropriately kind of like dread-filled and kind of scary, and at other times, it's very upbeat and funky and fun. Love it. Did a great job there. There's a pretty tense scene less than 20 minutes in, which I was kind of surprised by because I was like, they're doing something very tense like this early on? Okay. So I like that. They kind of grab you in the early end. For as young as the actors are, I think they did decent jobs. Now, it's varying degrees. Like, certain young actors do a better job than others. Some of them are not, like, great as far as young actors go, but once again, like, they're kids acting. So, like, the fact that they actually did the job that they all did, I'm impressed with that, to be honest. Because at those ages, you probably wouldn't see me doing that well. I was in a elementary school play, and I had one line in it. Man, I nailed that line, but I had one line. So yeah, I'm just always impressed when kids are able to do anything like that. So, but some of them are quite good, I will say. There's great use of scenery, like I already said, so beautiful, breathtaking at times. There's a mix of practical effects and CGI. So here's the thing. Neither of them look amazing. They both look wonky. They try, you can tell at times they're really trying to kind of like make sure that you can't focus on them too much. And it is achieved at times by like doing a lot of cuts in certain instances, which actually work to the situations in the film. So that's fine. But when you get like the longer looks, which you do get here and there on the practical effects and the CGI, it looks, you know, it like looks worse and worse. So once again, you know, it's a low budget film, so you don't expect like CGI and practical effects to be like amazing. And it's not great, unfortunately. Although there are moments where it does look pretty great. And like I said, there are those moments where they do a great job of cutting it and shooting it so that you can't necessarily tell that it's kind of wonky in those instances. About 40 minutes in, there's a very significant escalation that seems like it's really going to kick things into high gear. Story-wise, it is a big escalation, and it kind of moves the story to the next level. But then they really just don't go beyond that next level. So it felt to me like, okay, here's the next stage we're going to hit, and then we were going to have another stage after that, maybe even two, and it just never happened. So it kind of feels like the movie, like I said, gets stuck and then just kind of ends. But again, could have been something that was just, you know, stunted by budget. I don't know. There are some moments where you can see actors stalling in their actions to allow another character to achieve something. Not a lot, but there are a few of those moments which really kind of like takes you out of the film because it seems like it's breaking the fourth wall to a degree. And it just kind of makes it feel like, oh, like this is like I'm seeing something that's not the film right now. I'm seeing like a behind the scenes things that's kind of like messing up the flow of the story. So not a lot, but at least twice I saw it happen. And that could just be because I'm paying like super close attention when I'm doing these reviews. I did feel I wanted them to do more and go a bit bigger, as is the stakes feel pretty small, unfortunately. Like, I guess maybe that's not accurate. Like, for the characters, the stakes are extremely high, and you really need to be in that mindset, but you also, as a viewer, as a horror fan, kind of want the stakes to get bigger and want the implications to get bigger. So it's going to be each individual person, like, what's your preference, basically. This film has pretty good pacing to a certain point, and then it really does slow down too much, in my opinion. So really good pacing till probably about 3/4 in, and then after that, I think the pacing kind of falls off some. There's good portrayal of young people's struggle to reconcile their culture and traditions with modern popular culture. I know that that's, from what I've heard, a very big issue with people who just aren't white. Is that there's this popular culture that kids kind of gravitate to, but then there's like this traditional individualized culture that also wants to, be around and get passed on from generation to generation. And it's this clash, basically. It's like, how much of which one do these kids feel like they can go with? So they don't make that like a central theme, but you do see it pop up within this film, which is interesting. And then I'm going to talk about the metaphor thing, so if you want to stop, go ahead and stop right now. Here we go. There's a metaphor in here relating to reclaiming rightful ancestral land, which, if you think about that while you're watching the film or after you've watched the film, just kind of like replay it in your head, you're like, actually, as a metaphor, this works pretty well, in my opinion. Just again, I kind of wanted it to go like a lot bigger, but pretty solid film. Out of 5 stars, half stars in play, I'm going to give it 3 stars. I was between 3 and 3.5, but the pacing issues that came in at the end, the practical effects and CGI, and the, where it gets to a certain point and feels like it gets kind of stuck, those are the reasons I'm going 3 as opposed to 3.5. But no, I was on the fence, and I really did consider 3.5. So this is definitely a film I would recommend people check out, and I think it's definitely going to find a good fan base on Shudder, and I hope it does well. I mean, I would be interested in seeing more from Innuksuk and Cavan, or Cavan. Sorry. And also sorry if I'm mispronouncing Innuksuk. I try. But anyway, thank you everyone for checking out this review. Would love to hear your thoughts on this film once you've seen it. We can do spoilers in the comments too. Go ahead. So go ahead and put some comments down there. Do me a favor, hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Really would be awesome. I am very thankful whenever people subscribe. You're adding to this nerdy horror community I'm trying to create here. And it helps motivate me to keep these things going. Also hit the notification bell button, because then you'll know when I'm putting up new videos, which is at least 4 a week, which I think is a good amount. Regardless though, thanks for taking your time to watch this video, and until next time, keep it brutal.